So I started to do this where I was actually on camera, but it was going to be a super long-ish video and would take forever to upload. So I'm going to just do it this way, which would be quicker. And we're going to talk about what you see on the screen. That is the Missouri State Penitentiary, and they do tours. I think they're eventually going to take it completely down. I've been told that. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but they make money off of tours. All right. And this is located in Jefferson City, Missouri. They do or did have, when it had inmates in it, it does have the gas chamber. And depending on when the person committed the crime, they would either go through hanging as execution, or they eventually became they had the gas chamber in it, and the gas chamber was set up in such a way that sometimes two people were executed at the same time. So what happened was, a couple of people I know are going to do the tour of the state pen, Missouri State Pen. However, I cannot go because my foot is giving me grief from surgery. I have a wheelchair, but there's steps everywhere. That's not going to work with a wheelchair. And what else? I have a knee wheelie thing, but it's a large facility. And again, there are steps everywhere. And my body doesn't have tolerance for that at all. And with the fibro, doing too many stairs can make my calf muscles feel like they were beaten with baseball bats. I've been through that before. So I'm just going to avoid the whole scenario. But we're going to talk about infamous inmates. And that's going to be my consolation prize since I can't go to the tour of the prison. All right, so let's roll. William Wright, age 33. These are all inmates that were that went through the execution at the Missouri State Pen. Okay. William Wright was age 33. He was convicted of killing Dr. J.T. McCampbell and a druggist, which is a pharmacist, in a robbery on March 15th, 1933 in Kansas City, Missouri. Okay. His execution date was March 4th, 1938. Pellets were released at 6:21 a.m., pronounced dead by Dr. W. W. Rambo between 6:25 and 6:26 a.m. Last meal not mentioned. John Brown, age 34, crime, convicted of killing Kansas City, Missouri motorcycle patrolman William Cavanaugh in a tavern holdup on April 7th, 1936. Execution date March 4th, 1938. Pellets released at 6:21 a.m., pronounced dead by Dr. W. W. Rambo between 6:24 and 6:25 a.m. Last meal, pork chops, potatoes, and biscuits. Raymond Boyer, 33, convicted of killing W. Dale Sanford of Kansas City, Kansas on April 9th, 1936 on Highway 40 near Oak Grove, Missouri. Boyer met him in Kansas City, Missouri, and persuaded him to drive to St. Louis. After killing him, he took his car and clothes. Execution date, March 5th, 1938. Taken to the gas chamber at 5 a.m., entered the gas chamber at 6:18 a.m., and was pronounced dead at 6:20 to 6:24 a.m. by Dr. W. W. Rambo and Dr. H. S. Gove. Last meal, egg sandwich and coffee. Raymond Batson, age 32, convicted of the murders of Justice of the Peace Philip R. Rabinow and Dr. William E. Poole after a quarrel over litigation in the Justice Court. Execution date, June 30th, 1938. Batson was condemned to hang for slaying Poole, but the Supreme Court reversed that sentence on a technicality, later upholding his conviction for shooting Rabinow. Last meal was a large steak. Johnny Stones, age 35, convicted of brutally attacking a farm woman in New Madrid County, Missouri, after tying her husband to a bedpost. Execution date, July 14th, 1938. Taken to the gas chamber at 12:03 a.m. Pellets were released at 12:07 a.m. Pronounced dead after 4 minutes. Last meal not mentioned. For those who don't understand what that means, pellets released. Inside the gas chamber, from what I understand, is acid. And once they drop these pellets inside the acid, it would release the gas that they would eventually breathe in, which would eventually take them out of here. So when you hear me say pellets released, that means they drop the pellets inside the acid. Adam Ricchetti, age 28. Crime. Ricchetti, Charles Arthur Pretty Boy Floyd, and Vern Miller, a South Dakota sheriff turned gangster, were named by federal officials as the Kansas City, Missouri Union Station murderers. The crime took place on June 17, 1933. Killed were federal agent R.J. Caffrey, police chief Otto Reed of McAllister, Oklahoma, and 2 Kansas City, Missouri police officers, William J. Grooms and Frank E. Hermanson. Execution date, October 7th, 1938. Same meal as MSP staff: eggs, steak, potatoes, eggplant, corn, pineapple, cookies, and cake. Granville Allen, age 28, convicted of killing Howard Preston during a Kansas City, Missouri burglary on the night of October 19, 1936. Execution date, October 28, 1938. If you notice, there's a common theme here. Within a few years, the person is executed. There's no BS like we have nowadays where you get executed 20, 30 years later. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay, no last meal mentioned or anything like that. Byron E. King, he was 28, convicted of killing George Spear, a St. Louis taxi driver, after robbing him of $3.25 on January 17, 1936. Spear identified King on his deathbed. Execution date, November 4th, 1938, 2 years later, not 30 years later. Noted details before his execution at 1:28 a.m. King smoked cigarettes and chatted with prison staff. He was dead 7 minutes later. No mention of a last meal. John Williamson, age 63, convicted of killing George Williams, a farmer near St. Genevieve, Missouri, on August 11, 1935. Williams was killed over 2 hogs. Execution date, February 15, 1939. He was first sentenced to hang for his crime, and then it was commuted to, not really commuted, but they changed it to, they weren't hanging anymore. They were doing the gas chamber, so he ended up going to the gas chamber. Robert Kenyon, age 24, crime, convicted of kidnapping and murdering Dr. J.C.B. Davis of Springs, Missouri, on January 26, 1937. The crime was committed in an attempt to obtain $5,000 so Kenyon could marry his sweetheart, Opal Welch. Execution date, April 28, 1939. Kenyon was baptized at Missouri State Penitentiary on April 26, 1938. No last meal mentioned. Chester Jackson, age 31, convicted of fatally shooting Daisy Edmond, his paramour, on August 3, 1938, at her home in Joplin, Missouri. Execution date, September 20th, 1940. Jackson died in the gas chamber with Robert West. Last meal, none mentioned. Robert West, 25, convicted of killing Vivian Davidson, his childhood sweetheart, on June 8, 1938, as she sat in an automobile near the home of relatives in St. Louis County. Execution date, September 20th, 1940. West helped to quarry the stone which was used to build the Missouri State Pen gas chamber. He died in the gas chamber with Chester Jackson. Last meal, none mentioned. Don't mind what's on the screen. I forgot to, I forgot to put do not disturb. So just don't mind that. Wilburn Johnson, age 40, convicted of killing 2 children, Sarah Mitchell, age 13, and Willis Mitchell, age 15, on September 27th, 1940, over an argument for $5. The crime took place near Neelyville, Missouri. Execution date, January 3rd, 1941. Johnson also killed 2 others in the same incident, which included the children's grandmother. Last meal, fried chicken, gravy, biscuits, lemon soda, and a cigar. Ernest Tyler, age 37, convicted of murder. Execution date, April 24th, 1942. Tyler hummed quiet snatches of the ballad Frankie and Johnny while doctors from St. Louis, Washington University strapped microphones to his chest so they can hear him die. Last meal, not mentioned. Alan Lambus, age 73, convicted of murdering a teenage girl with a pitchfork after she refused his amorous advances. Execution date, June 16, 1944. While being led into the gas chamber, Lambus asked the warden to call the governor man again. Last meal, none mentioned. James Thomas, age 20, convicted of raping and killing a female in Wellston, St. Louis County, Missouri, in January of 1944 after holding her at knife point. Execution date, October 19th, 1944. Nothing else mentioned. Leo Lyles, 22, convicted for the 1941 slaying of St. Louis County farmer Martin Twillman. Twillman was shot when Lyles and William E. Talbert attempted to steal the farmer's truck. Execution date, May 25, 1945. The Lyles execution was the first in Missouri where a female was allowed to be a witness. William Talbert was executed for the same crime on November 16, 1945. Last meal, nothing mentioned. William Edward Talbert, 24, convicted of killing Martin Twillman, a farmer from St. Louis County, Missouri, in 1941 as he attempted to steal his truck. Execution date, November 16, 1945. Talbert acted in concert with Leo Lyles, Lee Butler, and Willie Clayton. Lyles was executed on May 25, 1945. Butler and Clayton received life sentences. Fred Ellis, age 23, convicted of the brutal murder, beating, and burning death of Mrs. Mary Santo, age 56, on December 12, 1943, in Pacific, Missouri. Execution date, August 16, 1946. Ellis acted in concert with Jesse Sanford, who was executed on the same date. The motive for the crime was robbery, which netted only $5. Last meal, none mentioned. Jesse Sanford, age 37, convicted of the brutal robbery and homicide of Mary Santo, age 56, of Potosi, Missouri. She was beaten and burned to death on December 12, 1943. Execution date, August 16, 1946. Sanford was executed with a co-defendant, Fred Ellis. The two obtained only $5 in the robbery. No last meal mentioned. Van Lee Ramsey, age 37, convicted of murdering Lena Davidson, age 19, during a robbery in St. Louis, Missouri. On May 1st, 1945, Ramsey slit her throat. Execution date, January 9, 1947. No other details. Last meal, spring fried chicken, French fried potatoes, cream gravy, peas, biscuits, and lemon pie. Marshall Perkins, age 59, convicted of the brutal rape of 13-year-old Gladys Jeffries as she was going home from a movie on June 2, 1945. Execution date, January 24, 1947. Perkins's trial made legal history when the Missouri Supreme Court upheld for the first time the use of a recorded verbal confession in circuit court. Perkins served 2 previous sentences for assault with intent to kill. He also served time in Kansas, Michigan, and Illinois. Last meal, fried chicken, cream gravy, French fries, peas, hot biscuits, jelly, peach pie, milk, and coffee. Floyd Cochran, age 37, Convicted of the rape and slaying of Mary Lou Jenkins. Jenkins was strangled with a lamp cord on February 5th, 1946, at her home in Columbia. Execution date September 26, 1947. Cochran was arrested after he killed his wife with a shotgun. He admitted his crime. Last meal: T-bone steak, French fries, scalloped corn, cream gravy, bread, butter, cake, and coffee, and then decided not to eat his meal. Ernest Afton Scott, age 49, convicted of killing his wife Verla Scott by shooting her with a rifle on March 29, 1948 in Mountain Grove, Missouri. Execution date November 4th, 1949. Before killing his wife, he shot and killed Circuit Judge Charles H. Jackson of Mountain Grove, Missouri. Scott thought the two were having an affair. Declined a special meal, stating the regular food here is good enough for me. George Bell, age 35, convicted of shooting and killing a Kansas City, Missouri police officer at an apartment during a gun battle on September 20th, 1948. Execution date December 2nd, 1949. During the gun battle, Scott killed 4 policemen and a bystander. Last meal: fried chicken, French fries, and ice cream. Charles Tite? I'm not sure how his name is spelled weird. Age 56, convicted of shooting and killing Fred Matchett and Mr. and Mrs. Delbert Matchett in St. Joseph, Missouri on October 25th, 1945. Execution date May 19th, 1950. Tide's execution was the first death sentence to be carried out from Buchanan County, Missouri since 1909. No last meal mentioned. Claude McGee, age 39, convicted of beating MSP inmate John Maynor to death with a hammer in the prison yard on January 10th, 1948. Execution date January 5th, 1951. Before his execution, McGee was asked why he didn't eat his last meal. His response was, "I'm saving it for later." McGee and Manor, his victim, entered MSP in 1937 for the murder of a Mississippi County man. On October 31, 1945, he escaped with inmate Bert Ivan Grimm and kidnapped a Jefferson City insurance agent. Last meal: stewed chicken, biscuits, and ice cream. Willie Porter, age 29, convicted of leaving MSP as a trustee on August 9th, 1952, and becoming intoxicated. He went to Bella Vista Apartments on East Capitol Avenue in Jefferson City, Missouri, where he brutally beat and raped 70-year-old Mrs. Belle Agee. Execution date October 28th, 1952. Noted details: Porter signed a confession. Cole County District Judge Sam E. Blair, who gave him the death sentence, was a witness to his execution. No meal mentioned. Ulas Quilling, 53, convicted of killing Luvenia Julia Webb in Kansas City, Missouri in 1951. Execution date May 29, 1953. Noted details: Quilling also killed 2 other black women, Mrs. Irene Boggs and Cal E. Dodd. My bad. Dodd. I'm sorry. Last meal: fried chicken, fried catfish, fried spare ribs, French fries, potato salad, rolls, fig jam, coffee, milk, pie, and cake. Kenneth Boyd, age 23, convicted of shooting and killing Sam Barrenfield during an armed robbery on January 13, 1951. Only $40 was obtained in the robbery. Execution date July 10, 1953. Mrs. Barrenfeld and a young grocery attendant identified Boyd as the killer. A ballistic test proved that the fatal bullet came from his firearm. Last meal not mentioned. Bonnie B. Heady, 41, convicted of the kidnapping and murder of Bobby Greenlease. Heady and Carl Austin Hall demanded $600,000 in ransom, at the time the largest ransom in the history of the nation, which was paid Unknown to the family, Heedy and Hall had already killed and buried Bobby soon after the abduction. So they got all that money to release him, but he'd already been murdered by them. Execution date, December 18, 1953. The judge who sentenced Heedy and Hall called it the most cold-blooded, brutal murder he had ever tried. They were executed side by side. Heedy was the only woman to be executed in the gas chamber. Last meal, none mentioned. Wow. Carl Austin Hall, 34, convicted of the kidnapping and murder of Bobby Greenlease. Heedy and Carl Austin Hall demanded $600,000 in ransom at the time, the largest ransom, etc., etc. They were both, that was the other person who committed the crime with her. Doc Booker, age 46, convicted of killing a friend, Earl Harrison, over an argument as to who was the best baseball player. Really? Really? Booker killed his friend on August 15, 1953. Execution date, April 1st, 1955. Joke was on him. It doesn't say that. That was my added commentary. Staff at MSP were nervous because Booker's execution was the first following the disastrous 1954 riots. Last meal, nothing mentioned. Arthur Ross Brown, 31, convicted of the brutal slaying of Mrs. Wilma Allen, age 34, on August 4th, 1955. Execution date, February 24, 1956. He had a long history of crime dating back to age 15. He had 3 burglary convictions, 1 arson, and 1 auto theft. At the time of his execution, he was wanted in Wyoming for shooting Sheriff Willard Marshall of Sheridan County. Same meal as MSP staff. Soup, crackers, fried beef steak, French fries, buttered noodles, spinach, biscuits, coffee, milk, and cookies. Thomas Moore, 42, convicted of shooting his wife on May 5th, 1953, while she was in bed. His stepdaughter witnessed the crime. Execution date, September 13, 1957. He was pronounced dead at 12:09 a.m. by Warden E.V. Nash. No last meal mentioned. Sammy Eyre Tucker, age 26, convicted of killing police officer Herbert Goss while involved in a crime spree across the country. Execution date, July 26, 1963. Tucker had a partner, Douglas Thompson, who was caught 1 week after Officer Goss was killed. Thompson was apprehended after killing a bystander and wounding a Missouri State Patrol officer. No last meal mentioned. Charles Harvey Odom, age 32, convicted of brutally raping and murdering a 13-year-old girl on July 23, 1961, in Joplin, Missouri. Execution date, March 6, 1964. On June 24, 1962, Odom and another death row inmate attempted an escape by seizing and overpowering a prison guard. No last meal mentioned. Good job, genius. Ronald Lee Wolf, age 34, convicted of luring an 8-year-old girl from a church picnic in Troy, Missouri, and brutally raping her. The crime occurred 3 days after Wolf was released from the federal prison in Atlanta, Georgia. Execution date, May 8, 1964. Wolf is buried in Longview Cemetery in Jefferson City, Missouri. No last meal mentioned. Lloyd Leo Anderson, age 22, convicted of murdering a 15-year-old delivery boy during a robbery in a St. Louis, Missouri drugstore. Execution date, February 26, 1965. Lloyd L. Anderson was the last execution in Missouri by means of lethal gas. No last meal mentioned. George Tiny Mercer, age 44, convicted for the rape and murder of 22-year-old Karen Keaton in Belton, Missouri. At the time of the murder, Mercer had a charge against him of raping a 17-year-old girl. Execution date, January 6, 1989. Tiny Mercer became the first person to be executed in Missouri since 1965. His execution was carried out in the former gas chamber, which was converted to use lethal injection. No last meal mentioned. The Missouri State Penitentiary was open from 1836 to 2004. And as I said, it was located in Jeff City, Missouri. I wanted to read those crimes without emotion because I'm trying to stick with the facts. But it's very hard to read. Very, very, very hard to read. People losing their life for petty reasons because of evil people. There's absolutely no reason to murder somebody for $5. Self-defense is one thing, but you just going on a crime spree because you ain't got nothing else going on. You got little children that are being assaulted and murdered. These are the reasons, people sitting in their house watching TV, they get murdered. This is absolutely not in this particular crime, but I've watched a ton of criminal documentaries, and it's just so senseless. It makes no sense. And when people fight for, they'd rather them get a life sentence or instead of execution because they feel so bad for these people. But the problem is when you go on that page where all you got tunnel vision, you just focus on saving the criminal's life, you're ignoring what happened to the victim. You're totally blowing that off like, yeah, but there is no yeah, but. They didn't give mercy to the person they killed. But you want to give them mercy? You got to be kidding me. If they turn their life over to God and now they're a good person, good for them. Then hopefully when you die, you'll go to heaven. Hopefully you have remorse for what you've done. But you had zero mercy for the people that you took out of here, for the people that you brutalized. So no, if you get executed, that's on you. If you did not do what you did, you would have been good to go. I think of the victims. I don't break my neck to support somebody who did a horrific crime. I think of the victims. I try to put myself in the victim's shoes. I try to think of, which is impossible to think of really, the extreme terror going through you that is inexplicable. You can't describe the terror that you feel when you're being choked with you're strangled with a cord from a lamp and you know this is inevitable. You're going to die and you're fighting back and you're no strength to this person. I put myself in the victim's shoes. That is the reason I don't feel bad when they get executed. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, if I got hired to help execute, I will do it because you have to follow what the law says. You got to do what you were hired to do. Would it be extremely hard, especially the first time or first couple times? Of course. And I would think that you have to have some kind of therapy after that because you took someone's life. But at the same time, you're following what you are supposed to follow by law. And again, I don't feel bad for them. I feel bad for their victims. I don't feel bad for them. I don't. I do not. Imagine being that 8-year-old girl and being not only assaulted, but murdered. Imagine. Okay? Anybody whose life is taken. How, what went through their mind, knowing that this is it. And there's not a damn thing they could do about it. Okay? So, rest in peace to all the victims. I hope all of them, obviously this was a long time ago, but I hope all of their spirits are resting in peace and their families, I don't know. I mean, what do you say? Do you ever recover from that? I mean, you don't recover from that because if your family member was someone you love was destroyed, murdered. You can't ever get over it. But I just hope one day they find peace and find a purpose. And if some people have been the victim, indirect victim of, crimes like this, and they have turned their life, not, I don't want to say turn their life around because those people were executed, but like their family members may have become, counselors for young kids that are going the wrong way, and they could always use that as a, listen, look what happened to my uncle or my father. That person was executed because they were going down the same path you're going. You don't want to be executed. And if you keep messing around going down the path you're going, that's exactly what's going to happen to you. So it's basically a prime example of, using lemons to make lemonade, basically, to try to stop other people from going down the same path, you know? So, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will talk to you later. Bye.